All.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the Charuset Endowment Chair on Regulatory Considerations for Pharmaceutical Development, a Global Scenario, organized by Ramanbhai Patel College of Pharmacy and T.P. Patel Center for Postgraduate Studies in Pharmacy, Charotar University of Science and Technology. RTCP is a constituent institute of Charotar University of Science and Technology. It was established in the year 2004 with a view to promote the excellence in pharmacy education and to prepare the young talent to meet challenges of industrial pharmacy and pharmacy practice. With this view, RTCP, we organize endowment chair activity every year with an objective to provide the platform to our students for interaction with the eminent speakers, scientists, and professionals. And this year we have organized it in the online platform. So for today's session, we have with us Dr. Rajshri Ojha, the founder and director, Raj GP Private Limited, Mumbai, India. Ma'am is a global RA GMP consultant having experience of more than 30 years in pharmaceutical, OTC, medical device industry. She has an expertise in getting the marketing approval for the generics, drug substance, drug products, medical devices, OTC, nutraceuticals, and the food across the globe. She brings with her more than 3 decades of rich experience working for lead organizations like Spectrum Pharma, Farmtech, Cognizant, Famicare, Pregna International, Synergy Pharma UAE, Novartis, GSK, TCS, Glenmark, Sandoz, Unichem Labs, local FDA, Bandra. She is RAPS qualified and also hold a PG diploma in the intellectual property rights IPR, pharma quality management, and is a regulatory submission expert of CTD, ECTD, ACTD, NES formats. She has published more than 25 articles and research papers in the reputed journals. She was awarded for Women's Leadership India Awards in Pharma Coaching by II Global in February 2017. She also received Women in Business WIB 2019 award in April 2018 by Indian Chambers of Commerce. She is also associated with many leading education institutes, colleges in India as a guest faculty. She is a visiting faculty at GSS University in Mysore for MPharm in Drug Regulatory Affairs. ICT, UDCT, BCP, KLE, MET, NIPER, Sindbad Institutes, Bharti Vidyapit, Gallot, CASE, HKCP, OCP, and many more. So today she is going to deliver a talk on basic concepts and understanding of various types of drug applications in session 1 and an overview of regulatory submissions network, CTD and ECTD in session 2. Ma'am, it is a great pleasure to have you here, and these two topics, I think we are going to learn much today.
Yeah.
So I request ma'am this session.
Thank you, Dr. Gayatri ma'am and Dr. Jagruti for the wonderful introduction. And I am really thankful to RPCP College for giving me this opportunity. And I allow all my pharmacists, who will be attending these 2 sessions, but just have patience, and please try to attend each and every, try to listen to my sentences, rather than focusing on presentation. You will be getting presentation slides, okay? At the end of the day, you will be getting everything, okay, in your inbox by Gayatri ma'am or the Jagruti ma'am. So nothing to worry about presentation or anything. Just try to understand the topic. Once you understand the basic topics, the basic requirements, the various applications, how it is submitted to various health authorities, then half the battle is won. If you want to really become a regulatory affair professional, this is a nice forum. All members from the industry, the industrial professionals are coming and sharing their knowledge with you guys. and you are really lucky to associate with RPCP college, who are taking all efforts to bring all people together, industry people together, and share the knowledge with you. So not taking much time, I'm going to share my presentation. And if you want to keep my video on, let me know. Otherwise, to have a good bandwidth, I generally keep my video off so that you can focus on my presentation and the listening. So listening skills should be very good.
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah. So I'm going to share the first presentation. Just hold on. Yeah, can you see my screen? Just say yes, somebody.
Yes, ma'am. Perfectly okay, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes,
So I'm going to speak about the basic concepts and the understanding of various types of drug application. Okay, all the content is freely available. If you find some time, and search from Google or any health authorities website, you are going to get much more content than this, which I brought it for you in today's presentation. And all the references we have acknowledged. So to introduce what is regulatory submission first, the regulatory submission is very important, because without which we cannot get the marketing approval and we cannot sell our product in different market. So regulatory submissions are the packages of information and data needed by the regulatory agency. For what reason? Just to establish whether a regulated healthcare product can progress to clinical testing or whether it is safe and effective for marketing. Okay, so in this way, you have learned by now that safety, quality, efficacy, these are the three parameters on which our industry, whole industry relies upon. Correct? We have to ensure at any given time of point that our product is of good quality, it is very safe for human use, and it is efficacious. Okay, so that we prove by bringing all the data together, and we prepare a dossier and submit to the health authority. So preparation of dossier takes place as per the country specific requirement. So there are suppose 257 countries in this world, and this globe is divided into regulated and semi-regulated market. So regulated means what? Those who are having high regulation, you have to strictly follow the regulation, act, laws, and their standards. So, and the semi-regulated means what? You have some liberty, some kind of documents are not required. For example, validation data or some chromatogram or anything, but please keep in mind that you have to follow country specific and regional specific requirement. Also, you have to keep in mind to follow country specific format. And those are the global format called CTD, ECTD, the NICE and other form. So what are the drug regulatory authorities do? What is their role, main role? They provide the legal framework for the clinical trials so as to protect the safety and rights of the subjects participating in a trial. And they ensure that trials are adequately designed to meet scientifically sound objective. Am I right? And to ensure diagnostic or therapeutic potential of investigational molecule in humans and animals, and to ensure safety and efficacy of the drug and the drug products. Am I right? And they also ensure that easy and cost-effective availability of therapy, because any health authority's main objective is what? To protect public health. So in order to protect public health, of course, all companies have to meet those parameters, quality, safety, efficacy. But beyond that, they ensure that all the drugs are available at economical rate. And that is why this generics has become very popular. Why generics has become more popular? Because of the cost effectiveness. Am I right? There no clinical or non-clinical trials are required. Then to protect rights and give benefits to the innovator and or the manufacturer of the drugs or the drug products. So let us learn about what are the different health authorities are there and what types of different applications we have to submit to get an marketing approval. So the biggest health authority is US FDA, correct? So when we talk about US FDA, we can submit our application as IND during our clinical trials, NDA after phase 3, then ANDA when you want to submit your generic application. And in case of biologicals, we submit BLA. In case of OTC, over the counter product, we send the OTC applications. Okay. And they have their own country specific guidelines to follow the registration procedure. And since US, Europe, and Japan, they are the tripartite organization who brought and published, who brought together the and defined a very nice guidelines of ICH, correct? So the format, if you consider for US, Europe, and Japan, it will always be CTD, eCTD. So you have to present the data in this format only. And that is why when I talk the regulated market, means we have to follow their strict rules, regulation, format, standards, whatever they specify as per specific country. Then their second most country is Europe. Okay. So in Europe, marketing authorization application, and there are different procedure to be followed. The format will be eCTD again. Okay. Then Health Canada. Health Canada also has different types of application like CTA, NDS, ANDS, then INDS, ANDS, SNDS, there are so on. And even Health Canada accept eCTD format. Health Canada is also highly regulated market, and they most probably follow the European, regulations. Then comes to Japan. Japan is the most stricter country, format. No doubt there is eCTD format, but apart from format, there are so many things they ask for. For example, when we submit the dossier in eCTD format, and if we provide the validation data or the assay data, they ask for to provide the chromatograph of each injections. If you have um, uh, given the chromatograph for the assay or the impurities, you have to inject sample. You have to prepare the sample in 3 sets and inject thrice. That means 3 samples into 3 injections. So 9 chromatograms will be, available, and those we have to attach along with your data. So that is one thing which is very prominent. And nowadays, many other health authorities are started asking about chromatograph and many other things. So why I'm emphasizing on this specific things, because you have to keep in mind that any health authority who asks as per their specific requirement, we have to meet being a regulatory professional. So unless and until you meet all the requirement, you are not going to get the marketing approval. Then China, CFDA, again, they have their own procedure. Now let us talk, within 1 hour, I have, captured only US and Europe IND, NDA, NDA application, some part of post-approval marketing changes, and then we will move forward with the CTD, CTD. I think that is fine with you. And if you need to learn more session on other country, then we have to organize another seminar, okay? So let us focus on USFDA and Europe in brief. So as you know, who is USFDA? It's an agency within the Department of Health and Human Services for United States. And of course, any health authority's prime objective is to what? Ensuring safety, efficacy, security of drugs, biological products, medical devices, Okay, and FDA provides marketing clearance for the medical devices in US. FDA is considered as one of the most stringent regulatory agencies in the world. However, it is the most transparent regulatory body which provides clear guidance for its operations. And this is how this USFDA organization chart look like, you know. So there are six major departments like, CDR, CBER and all, you can see. And there are different offices. You can see the Office of External Affairs, Office of Food Policy, Office of Minority Health and Health Equity, Office of Operation, you know. And this lady, I salute to her, Janet Woodcock, is the commissioner of FDA appointed by the president with advice and consent of Senate. And she is named as an acting commissioner of Food and Drug Administration from January 2021. As I mentioned earlier, there are 6 product center and 1 research center and 2 offices. CBER, that is Center for Biologic Evaluation and Research, which regulates vaccines, bloods, gene therapy, where the CDRH for the medical devices, correct? And it starts ranging from the thermometer to kidney dialysis machine and electronic products that give off radiation, correct? So even microwave oven in that case is regulated by CDRH. Then CDR is most popular in our case because we are dealing with pharma, drug, substance and drug product. So CDER, which regulates the OTC and the prescription medicine. So prescription medicine means our regular formulations. Okay. Then CFSN, CTP, there are several others. This is just for your information. I brought it together. Then US FDA medical device branches, wherein for the devices and drugs and biologics, we have to follow 21 CFR different parts. So we are talking about the drugs. So we have to follow 21 CFR part 56, 58, then 21 CFR part 11 for electronic records. Electronic submission is also very important. Then for the GMPs, we follow 21 CFR 210 and 211. For IND and NDA, we follow 312 and 314 respectively. And what are the laws under US FDA which we have to keep in mind? First is your Food and Drug Administration Act, correct? Then Section 21, that is 21 CFR part, as I mentioned, part 11, 58, 312, 314, and so on. Then PDUFA, GDUFA, ADUFA, and MADUFA, so what is this? PDUFA means Prescription Drug User Fee Act. So as per this act, you have to follow the fees for the respective application. Okay. And Generic User Fee Act for the ANDA and all generic submission, you have to follow GDUFA fees. For animal, it is ADUFA, Public Health Service Act, and the Hatch-Waxman Act and Amendment. Okay. So now we start with the actual session, where we are going to learn about different application. So whenever we talk about the DMF is submitted for your active substance, correct? So active pharmaceutical ingredients. So why DMF is important? To maintain confidentiality of proprietary information like manufacturing procedure for the holder. And it permits review of information by the reviewers at FDA to support applications submitted by one or more applicants. So you have to understand few facts also. We always say the DMFs are never approved or disapproved. Why? Because DMF is a reference document in case of third-party manufacturer. So DMF is submitted solely at the description of the holder. Okay. Suppose if you want to register your product, generic product, and you are applying ANDA to US FDA, in which you are using a DMF, the active substance. Okay. So the DMF holder has to give the letter of authorization, and you have to submit that letter of authorization to US FDA along with your ANDA application. Okay, and that time when your ANDA will be reviewed by US FDA, that time they have full authority because you have given the letter of authority, correct? Authorization. They have full liberty to access their DMF open part and close part. Okay. What are the content? The content part is very important in case of DMF also and ANDA also, which is very important, that is CMC. Okay. What is CMC? Chemistry, manufacturing and control, which talks about the manufacturing processes, right? Packaging processes, then storage, that is stability conditions, and other aspect like what are your specification, test procedure, validation data, and of course the stability data. So these all components becomes important content of your DMF file. Okay. When we consider CTD, ECTD, there we require only module 1, 2, and 3. 3 is your quality part, which talks about CMC. So there are typically 5 DMF, but 3 are active, like type 2 is for drug substance intermediates and material used in their preparation or the drug product. Type 3 for packaging material and type 4 for excipient, color and flavor and essence. Main for us is type 2 DMF for ANDA, which comes under GDUFA and require payment of fees by the applicant. And how these are reviewed? Similar, you have to prepare the dossier in CTD, ECTD format, submit the copy to CDER. It will be reviewed within 2-3 weeks and applicant is notified with the DMF number. Okay. And then when the what is the DMF holder responsibility is? After submission and getting this acknowledgement letter, your DMF become active. You have to look for the active status. And if it says your DMF is active on US FDA website, then you have to submit annual report. This is your holder's responsibility. You have to submit annual report every year. Okay. Now we move on to next applications like IND, NDA and ANDA. So before IND, everybody knows that millions of compounds are screened, right, during the drug discovery phase. And then after screening, it goes to preclinical pharmacology, preclinical trials, then clinical trials. And these clinical trials also divided into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Of course, there is phase 4 for the post-marketing surveillance. But these 3 phases are very important when we talk about IND and NDA application. Okay. So overall, it takes around, 11 to 15 years, depending on the molecule and depending on the what kind of trials you are taking forward. Okay. So what are the bottlenecks here? It takes the time and the cost. It requires almost, more than 800 to $1,000 million because we are spending so many years, okay, to bring one molecule in the market. And that is how it is very costly. Why the branded product is very costly? Because of this time and money factor, correct? And it takes thousands of millions of compounds are screened so that we get a one molecule out of it, 1 or 2 molecule. It goes for the marketing stage. So preclinical, clinical and post-marketing. So you can see the number of years and the possibility of one getting selected amongst thousands of molecules tested. So let us now discuss about IND, then NDA, ANDA and BLA. Correct? So what does it include? IND, all pharmacological and toxicological data is required to submit your IND application. Correct? And the application also contains the CMC data along with your clinical protocol and investigators information. And you seek for the legal approval to test this diagnostic or the therapeutic potential for investigational molecule in humans. So before IND, you have done your preclinical studies, right? So you have the animal pharmacological and toxical data in your hand, which proves that your molecule is safe. And now please allow us to conduct the trial in human. So when you ask for the permission from FDA, you have to apply through IND application, okay, which is called INDA. And once you submit, you wait for 30 days. And if any reply is, not given, that means your IND is, approved and you can start your clinical trials. So that is the waiting period is 30 days. Okay. Then come to NDA. NDA is also submitted to FDA CDER and you have to follow 21 CFR 314 for this. NDA is of course bigger than the IND application because it comprises of all the phases data, right? The preclinical data, then phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 data. And after three phases, only you are in a position to prove that, look, my drug, my product, or whatever you are claiming is safe. Safety is very important, and you have to prove the benefit versus risk ratio, that you have to prove it is more beneficial to the human than the risk. Okay. So safety, then you have to focus on labeling also, whether the drug's proposed label or the package insert is appropriate and what it should contain, right? You must have seen the pill, right? The patient information leaflet, which has everything detailed, the dose, the shelf life, the indication, contraindication, everything has to be mentioned. Okay. Then the process and the control, whether the method used in the manufacturing of the drug and the controls used to maintain the drug's quality are adequate to preserve the drug's identity, strength, quality, and purity. And how do we submit this NDA application? Of course, as I mentioned, if you are going to go for US FDA, Europe, Canada, ECTD, Japan, ECTD. Okay. So again, CTD, after this session, I'm going forward with the details. But just understand that NDA is submitted in CTD format and there are 5 modules required. Once you submit the NDA, the review process starts, correct? So application, whether it is fileable, yes or no. If it is no, you receive the RTR, refuse to receive letter from the US FDA. And if it is applicable, if it is acceptable to US FDA, then your sections will be divided into 6 parts under CDER. So there are different reviewers sitting at US FDA from the medical, pharmacology, chemistry, biopharmaceutical, statistical, and microbiological. So these are all SMEs, the subject matter expertise, who are going to review your application. Correct? So once it is thoroughly reviewed by all the expertise sitting at US FDA, then they call for the meeting. Okay? The meeting with the sponsor and the advisory committee meeting. Okay? So there you have to discuss and give the scientific rationale to your NDA application. And when the review is complete, along with the scientific committee, then it is said that it is acceptable or not acceptable. Sometimes what happens under this review, the sponsor review, they also ask for additional information. Okay, so additional information, or sometimes revision is required for the some documents or amendments are submitted, and then it is acceptable. Once it is acceptable, then proper action will be taken and your NDA will be approved. Okay. At this stage also, there could be no from the FDA, right? Because the whatever amendment or additional document you have provided were not satisfactory. So again, we have to wait for a reply till they are satisfied. So again, you will receive the pending for satisfactory results. Okay. So in this way, the NDA review process takes place. I won't take much time for the ANDA review. More or less, it would be similar. Okay. So now we have finished DMF, IND, and NDA. Now discuss ANDA, abbreviated new drug application. So we really thankful to Hatch-Waxman. These two gentlemen came together and formed that act, Hatch-Waxman Act 1984, and because of which we are able to get the cost-effective medicine, throughout the world. And generic has become very popular after this act published in 1984. So generic application is nothing but you have to select your RLD and you have to prove that you have the same dosage form, same strength, same route of administration, same quality, performance, and intended use, similar to your innovator product. Correct? And why it is low cost alternative? Because we don't have to attach preclinical and clinical data, which is already provided by the innovator. So this is pretty simple. NDA requires BA/BE studies, which is submitted to again FDA CDR. If approved, manufacture and sale of the generic product. So this is the difference between NDA and ANDA. So you would see that CMC labeling testing is important in case of NDA, along with animal toxicity data, clinical studies, and bioavailability. Whereas in case of ANDA, these three are replaced with the BA/BE data. And this is how the review takes place. Once the applicant send their ANDA, it is reviewed within couple of days. If it is acceptable, go to the next step. If it is not acceptable, you receive the RTR. Then it goes to the different reviewer, CMC, micro, labeling review, bioequivalence review. If everything is okay, then they come for the plant inspection, request for plant inspection. Once it is inspected, okay, then your ANDA will be approved. If it is no, then again it will go, your approval will be withheld until the results are satisfactory. So these are the some guidance documents which is required to follow, and you would see there are lots of knowledge database available, and you have to really spend some time to learn yourself, skill yourself, because training yourself and understanding the subject in detail is very important for the long sustainability. In our industry, we call it as we need a stability data at different temperature as per ICH-Q1. So when we work in an industry, we also need to see that how much we are stable. Nowadays the young generation, they leave the job in between after 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. So that is not going to help you to learn or earn also, because in our old days, we used to spend, 10 years, 20 years in one company so that we understand the full product life cycle, how the R&D takes place, then manufacturing, then technology transfer, then analytical formulation, till the registration, and after registration also, how you maintain that license, correct? How the renewal takes place, how post-approval changes takes place. So if you understand the entire life cycle of any one or two products, then you become a very good regulatory professional. Okay. So this is my just suggestion, which I'm sharing based on my experience. And of course, these many guidances and databases are available, and you have to take the advantage of it. Now, considering our ANDA, there are 4 clauses. If you see the patent certification, you have to select the best which suits to your requirement. Okay, so there are para 1, para 2, para 3, para 4 ANDA certification. So what is it? Para 1 means required patent information is not filed. And FDA may approve generic immediately. One or two more applicant can enter. Okay. Para 2 means patent has already expired. So most of the applicant goes for Para 2 because patent is already expired and you are free to, launch your product in USA. So here also FDA may approve generic immediately. One or more applicant can enter. Para 3 means patent has not expired but will expire on a particular date. So you have to define your regulatory strategy that this patent is going to expire after 2 years, suppose, and you start your development and be prepared. So para 2, para 3 is the most popular one. So FDA may approve NDA effective on date of expiration. So as soon as that innovator product patent expires, you get the entry into USA market. Para 4 means patent is invalid or non-infringed by generic applicant. Okay. So generic applicant can file notice to patent holder. So when you want to challenge this patent, okay, para 4, that is first to file opportunity you want to acquire, then it becomes a challenging. For that, you should have your good regulatory professional with having thorough scientific knowledge. Also, you should have a good IPM team, intellectual property. Suppose if you face the challenges future, then you have to go to USPTO court. If you lose the case, if you win, that is good. Okay. So this is how para 1, 2, 3, 4 looks like. Then come to BLA. Frankly speaking, BLA, I'm not expertise in biologics, but I try to share my knowledge, which I work for, little bit on biological application. So it is also one of the application goes to US FDA. And nowadays you might have heard so many vaccines, seras are developed, and so BLA are in top form. So because of the need, right, because of the COVID pandemics, there are lots of opportunities in biologics and even in the medical device sector. Medical device also, if you see rapid kits, thermometers, then ventilators, and there are so many equipments are in high demand, huge demand, I would say. So medical devices and these segments are coming up like anything, there are lots of opportunities. So BLA is an application submitted to authority acquired to this license, and application is almost similar to NDA. And what it contains, the contents, the chemistry, pharmacology, the source material details, manufacturing processes, labeling, medical effects of the biologic product, preclinical to phase 3 studies. Then BLA application goes to two department, that is CBER and CDER. When it goes to two department, how the data is evaluated by two department. The CBER evaluates about the allergenics, blood and blood components, devices developed to prevent contamination of blood components and cellular products, blood, gene therapy, and so on. Whereas CDER is involved only in case of monoclonal antibodies for use in vivo and protein extracted from plants, animals, and microorganisms and other non-vaccine therapeutic immunotherapeutic. So in this way, we have completed all the application like DMF, IND, NDA, ANDA. Do you have any question? Students, do you have any particular question till now? Let me know frankly, please. Am I moving fast or the speed is okay? Hello? You have to speak.
Ma'am, they will not be able to speak. They can just write in the chat box.
Okay. So have anyone written?
Not yet. No one has asked the question yet.
Oh, okay. So shall I move forward?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Okay, thank you. So what is post-approval changes? Anyone can answer? No? Okay. So you can write, if you can't answer, you can write also. So any change made post-approval of the application is considered as post-approval changes, right? So what are those changes? There are three types of post-approval changes. One is major changes, which is called PAS, prior approval supplement. Moderate changes, which is changes being affected, and minor changes is a annual report. Okay, what is PAS? That is changes that have substantial potential to adversely affect the identity, strength, quality, purity, or potency of the product, as these factors may relate to the safety or effectiveness of the product. Correct? So in this case, the product will not be distributed until you get the approval. Correct? So this is very important to understand when the pre-approval submission is required, the PAS. So a major change requires the submission of a PAS and approval by FDA before distribution of the drug product made using the change. CBE, there are two types, CBE0 and the CBE30. Correct? Changes being affected, and within 0 is immediately, and changes being affected within 30 days with respect to what? Strength, identity, quality, purity, and potency. You have to apply accordingly. So depending on the nature of your change, one or two types of supplement must be submitted to the FDA. Okay. So CBE30 means what? A CBE30 supplement involves certain moderate changes that require the submission of the supplement at least 30 days before the distribution of your product. Okay. Now let us understand about Europe. How do they work? So Europe, as such, they have 50 countries. Europe has population of around 746 millions of people. And despite this growing, regulation, Europe remains a critical market. And most of the company, if you see big giant player like Cipla, Novartis, Glenmark, Sun Pharma, Mucard, and all other top 10 players are into US and Europe market. There is a big potential, to sell the product. So European market, for the pharmaceutical industry comprises of 27 member states of European Union and 3 EFTA members like Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. And you can see total there are 30 countries or 30 member state of Europe. Europe is bit, complicated regulatory system as compared to US FDA, because US FDA is one agency. Whereas in Europe, if you see, there are multiple national authority, correct? So there are almost 30 countries and they have their own regional specific guidelines, directives, and we have to meet, again, as I always say, country specific requirement. So in that matter, of course, you have to meet 30 country specific requirement. Okay. So who grants the marketing authorization in Europe? Who grants? EMA, of course. They also is a big authority and they also look into the data with respect to your safety, quality, and efficacy. And in Europe, to getting marketing approval, there are different regulatory procedures. Okay, so we will discuss in brief, that is national procedure via NCAs, mutual recognition procedures, decentralized procedure, and centralized procedure. Okay, so I will talk one by one. Okay, just try to understand centralized procedure means what? Authorization by European Commission based on assessment by EMA, and it is valid in all 30 countries. That means one single application, once you get the approval, you can market in all 30 countries, okay, all member states. But in case of this, when it is allowed to go for the centralized route, in case of biotech product, vaccine, sera, and any emerging requirement, emergency medical use requirement. Okay, so you might have seen now due to COVID, lots of vaccines will take this centralized route so that the faster approval takes place through centralized and the drug is available to all 30 countries. Correct? So suppose AIDS, cancer, generation therapy, and so there are multiple cases, rare disease. All those product will go through centralized pathway. Now, as compared to centralized, as I said, one application, 30 countries. So similar in national procedure means one single application, one country. Easy to understand? Here one application, all countries. Here one application, one country. Okay, so authorization by a single member state. And once you get the authorization of single member state, what happens? You can go through mutual recognition procedure. So that here you already entered into your European market through this national procedure so that you can acquire more market. You can slowly enter into multiple market. Okay, that is called mutual recognition procedure. And there is a decentralized procedure also. Decentralized procedure in which you have to select one country as your RMS. RMS is a reference member state, and you can select multiple country as your CMS, that is concerned member state. Okay, so this route is also very effective. So through one DCP application, you get multiple entry. Okay, so you have to book the DCP slot and go ahead as per their DCP procedure. So easy to understand? Centralized, decentralized, MRP, right? And national procedure. So MRP, CP, DCP, and NP. Then come to their variation. Correct? So once marketing approval is over, you have to keep your product into market several years. So you cannot keep the same product several years. You have to change, sometimes what happens, you change the vendor, sometimes you change the packaging material, sometimes specification is changed based on your cumulative data obtained during stability. So lots of changes coming up, right? And it is captured in the type of variation. Okay, so when we have minor variation, type 1A and type 1B, and when we go for like site change, so one manufacturing site to another manufacturing site, then it's called as major variation. That is type 2 variation. Okay, so again, minor variation, that is again it is divided into type 1A, 1B, and there is extension application as well. Okay, in 1A there is also 1A that is immediate. Here you will see type 1A, do and tail. Type 1B means tail, wait, and do. Okay, so these are all minor changes and these are all major changes. Okay, it comes under. So it's easy to understand. And how is the evaluation process? Is this way. So the regulation for drugs should be under the control of the authorities. To summarize my lecture, we will spend more time on question and answer and discussion. Okay, I love to discuss. I love to talk to all pharmacists, my dear pharmacists. Okay, so to summarize, regulations for drugs should be under the control of authorities. So do you agree? There is authority required. Otherwise, what will happen? We will get all misbranded, cheaper drugs, and our life will be, in danger. So that is why to have our safe life, there should be authority to control everything, correct? And there should be a stricter regulation. Then for the compliance of all matters, the regulatory body, the government, and the people are held accountable. Decisions made by the authorities should be clear and transparent. They should be made in compliance with the rules and regulations to ensure the prosperity of the country. Correct? And the FDA ensures that the pharmaceutical companies and organizations are practicing the current good manufacturing practices regulation. Here I would like to emphasize that everyone should understand the GMP, GLP, GCP, GDP concept. Together with it is called GXP. Okay. So good manufacturing practices, one should understand as per 21 CFR part 210 and 211. Also, it has mentioned in the ICH, Q7, if you refer, it is clearly mentioned the GMP for API. If you refer to Indian Schedule M, GMP is clearly mentioned, then WHO GMP. So GMP as such is a big topic, one should understand thoroughly. So without GMP, one should not manufacture, one should not allow also to manufacture the product. So sometimes what happens, we manufacture by taking care of good manufacturing practices, but we fail to analyze. So GLP, the good laboratory practices becomes very important. Then the GDP, the good documentation practice. So unless and until you document, in a well mannered, as per country specific requirement, you are going to get deficiency and your approval will get delayed. And that is why GXP is very important, So GMP, GLP, GCP, GDP, together with it is called GXP. Okay, GDP also popularly used as for good distribution practices also. Once it is the product is distributed everywhere through the distribution channel, how the good distribution practices are also implemented, because storage becomes very important. Now, in case of vaccine also, you can see if it is not distributed in a proper, the ice cooled, the ice box, or it cannot store below the 2 to 8 degree, then what's the efficacy of that vaccine? It's not going to help, and that's how the good distribution practice is also important. And during our clinical studies, GCP, good clinical practices, are equally important. So my dear student, so you have to learn everything, not only the regulatory filings, different applications, and also ICH is beautifully written so many guidelines for the quality, safety, efficacy, and multidisciplinary. Correct? So under this, even quality guidance is right from Q1 to Q14. Now 13 and 14 is also available. You should read, you should understand what is the introduction, what is the scope, and how logically the guidelines is applicable in our day-to-day life. They're beautifully written guidelines, if you see the Q1 talks about stability, Q2 talks about the validation for analytical method, Q3 for related substance impurities, Q4 pharmacopoeia, Q5 biotic product, Q6 specifications, Q7 GMP, Q8 pharmaceutical development report, Q9 quality risk management, Q10 pharmacoquality system, the Q11 QBD, Q12, analytical again. There it is method development. Here it is, method validation. It is Q2, and here it is method development, and the continuous manufacturing. Correct. So there are so many guidances are available. If you really have time, you should focus on this ICH Q1 to Q14 guidelines, and you become a very good expertise, not only in regulatory field, in other field also, R&D, production, packaging, GMP master, everywhere you get to know the validation concept is clear, if you read Q2, Q3. So that's how GXP I wanted to, emphasize. And there should be strict regulatory plans, legal documentation, and implementation must be followed. And this helps to ensure that accidents in the medical world are kept to an absolute minimum. Correct? So the risk will be minimum. And these are the references from where I gathered information for you guys. And thank you very much for your kind attention. Now I just wanted to say about what we do. We have our Raj Pharma e-learning, and we have some industry focused program which is accredited by NSDC and Triple SDC. We have trained almost 28,500 candidates till date, and we offer services for all kind of submissions for US, Europe, Canada, GCC, CIS, SFDA, CFDA, PMDA, in all format like PCDD, CTD, ACTD and all. So these are our mission, and so just wanted to highlight couple of courses which we offer as a online courses or part time, and I am willing to join your college, for betterment of our skilling of our pharmacists who will become future leader, and I would love to associate with you. And with this, I'm really thankful again to each one of you who have attended my lecture. Thanks again. And now we open for the question and answer session. Thank you very much.